I recently was asked a question on a podcast interview with regards to the psychological model versus the spirit model of magic. And this is something that you see coming up often in the magical community at various times. And it has to do with explaining what spirits are, right? What are they? And there are these 2 points of view given, which are sort of in shorthand, the psychological model versus the spirit model. And the psychological model holds that spirits are a projection of the unconscious mind, and that when we're doing, evocation work or mediumship or anything like that, we're kind of dealing with these projections of our unconscious mind, right? And this is that we are dealing with some sort of psychological phenomena, really. And of course, the spirit model is just simply taking the experience at face value, that these are spirits, they exist from their own side, they're real, and that they are doing what they're doing, and we're talking to them, right? And these 2 points of view are kind of offered as sort of valid alternatives. And I wanted to address why I think the psychological model is bogus, basically. And the essence of the idea for me is that the psychological model, certainly from the point of view of a magician or a medium or a spirit worker of some sort, has no explanatory power. Its main explanatory power is to explain away the phenomena as a psychological figment. But certainly from the point of view of a practicing magician, it has no explanatory power. If we're to embrace that, certainly as a magician, not as a scientist or as an atheist or a skeptic or whatever, but as a practicing magician, the implication really is that we think it's not real, right? And I'd be curious to understand how someone who accepts this could explain magical effects and magical phenomena. Because if spirits are projections of the unconscious mind, and we're doing magical work, and assumedly we're getting various results, right? What is producing these results? So there is this belief that the spirits are not real, right? That they're projections of the unconscious mind, but somehow these projections of the unconscious mind can create magical results. So what you're saying is that the unconscious mind creates magical results, right? In other words, the unconscious mind is kind of like God. And how? Why? What is the mechanism there? And why are you willing to believe that the unconscious mind can do magic, right? It makes no sense. Why is that a more parsimonious belief than to think there are these spirits, they're real objective beings, they're immaterial, and they have various powers? That somehow is less plausible than believing the unconscious mind has magic powers. No, and what's worse is no mainstream scientific materialistic paradigm ascribes magical powers to the unconscious mind. To the contrary, it is basically understood as a delusion, that anything like that is the perception of a spirit or something like a magical effect is a delusion. It is a pathology. Yeah. So the willingness of magicians and spirit workers to even entertain this idea, I find bizarre and confusing and shocking, really. And it shows a contradiction, an inability to understand that this is another kind of superstitious belief, really. Because when we're talking about the psychological model, of course, we have to talk about psychology, Western psychology, which is an entirely new phenomena, 20th century thing, with very little evidence basis actually behind it. The theories of mind and all these kinds of things have got very little replicable evidence basis behind them, even within the scientific community, right? Many of the therapies, talk therapies and these things are really very questionable, in terms of their scientific, when they do studies on these things, as to their efficacy. And so a psychological model of spirits would of course be based in Western psychology. And Western psychology itself is an entirely new and unproven and questionable intellectual endeavor. And if we look at sort of the advent of Western psychology, of the ideas in Western psychology and mental health in the West, we see a sharp decline, right? The more Western psychology has gotten traction, and the theories of mind and so on have gotten traction in culture, the more mental health is declining, right? So even based just purely on a sort of anecdotal, looking at the how current events are unfolding, the track record behind Western theories of mind is abysmal, right? Maybe if we were discussing Vedic psychology or Taoist psychology, or psychologies of the East, maybe there is a bit more traction there for me in terms of having some sort of explanatory power, right? But Western psychology is a shit show. It is frankly a shit show. And this is one of the reasons why the medical establishment, the psychiatric establishment, is now glomming onto psychedelics like something crazy, because it's the first time they've actually found anything that works. Because so far, maybe with the exception of CBT or mindfulness, there haven't been very many Western psychological modalities that have had much success, right? So now wanting then to take this rather shoddy system, this shoddy intellectual project, and then to transpose it onto magic and spirit work, and trying to explain this phenomenon using this sort of not fit for purpose model, I think is really scientific materialistic brain damage. Really, it is the brain damage that comes from living in a materialistic paradigm in which this world is just a material substance, and that consciousness is kind of excreted by the brain, a bit like some sort of byproduct of the brain. Yeah. And if that is the case, then the only explanation for something like spirits would naturally be that they are just figments of this excretion, right? And so when you're stuck in that paradigm, when you're imprisoned in that way of thinking, then it is going to debilitate your approach to magic. It's going to really neuter any power that it has when you do magical work or spirit work, because if you are relating to these beings as some sort of figment of your unconscious mind, some sort of psychological projection, or some sort of unconscious manifestation, it is a dysfunctional and probably an abusive relationship, I would argue. If you were to contact me, and in this conversation, in the course of this conversation, it became clear to me that you believed that I was a fictional character, that you had conjured it up in your mind, right? Firstly, how do you think I would react to that? And secondly, how do you think you would behave towards me? Would you treat me with respect? Would you take me seriously when I gave you advice? Would you heed my warnings? And if I was a dangerous person, would you take that danger seriously if you thought I wasn't real? I don't think so. Remember to like and to subscribe. Check out my new book, The Divine Gypsy Mother. I'll link it down below. You can support me by buying some of my goodies. I've got ebooks, I've got PDFs, I've got my candle ministry. We do candle magic for clients. You can come for a reading. You can buy me a coffee down below. Check out my Discord. We've got a very nice Discord where we discuss mediumship, folk magic, Solomonic magic. It's a nice little community, very friendly people, very down to earth people. So you're more than welcome to join in the conversation there. It was nice talking to you again, and take care.